Is Valve once again taking over? Will DeadLock be the new biggest game? Maybe.
Talk about Valve again. So, DeadLock is public. They've actually lifted restrictions, and that means that it's completely surging. Even though it still is invite only, the point is they've just changed some of their policies, and that's just led to it exploding. Valve are also banning a rapidly popular and rising keyboard setting, which could be said to give people a bit of a competitive advantage, but it does raise like a lot of broader questions. And if you want some new
Oh man, we are so in the age where mouses, keyboards can be programmed to do unbelievable things that humans themselves have a really, really hard time, if possible, even to do. And this is going to be so annoying in the future.
Half-Life content, I have very good news for you. Also, I just think the timing of things is kind of wild, right? The other story going on this week is Concord and Sony. A lot was made of its launch being under 700 people on Steam. Well, right.
Yeah, it was a complete mess, and I love it. Deserved destruction.
Right now, as of me talking into this camera, it's at 92. 92 players, so it's actually at the stage where people are going to struggle to find games massively on the PC platform.
People were already struggling finding games with like 500 people. So with 92, good luck queuing up for, what, like 20, 30, 40 minutes?
Now, 92 is what it is currently. Its peak yesterday was 241, and that just makes me think of DeadLock. Like, there's quite a contrast between them, and they are very different games, apples and oranges, etc. But man...
Yeah, one's good, the other one is complete garbage. Truly apples and oranges.
In a world where people can go and just play DeadLock with an invite, surely they're going to go and try to do that rather than spend $40 on something that looks like it's a losing prospect. So I normally say we should all be on the lookout for Concord to go free to play, but there's a real big problem with that. It's money.
Oh, it's not even gonna go free to play. If it goes free to play, who actually cares? No one's gonna even look in its direction.
Monetization model is not designed for free to play, and that just means they're in this kind of crazy dead zone. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a bit weird. I think what's really proven to be strong, though, is Valve's viral marketing. They've leveraged like that, the sort of network effect, and just the mystique that surrounds them to absolutely trounce something with a far, far higher budget. Pretty crazy. We've got a lot to talk about today, but first I've got something I've been using for the last month from today's sponsor, Fume, who exists to help you replace a bad habit.
No.
Whether you're like, order a journey pack today. Okay, the big story is the DeadLock Steam page has now been set to public, and Valve have eased content sharing restrictions. That means that streamers can now stream the game. People can talk about it freely. Previously, that wasn't possible, even though it was being talked about everywhere. Now, somebody writing for The Verge and...
Yeah, that's kind of how this type of marketing works. First, it's exclusive. People start to hear about it, and then it goes public, and it's like a boom. Pretty good strategy, honestly. Don't know if the exclusivity would have worked in the long term if they didn't go more open public, but, you know, still a pretty decent strategy.
Ended up doing a story in the game because they were able to get in. They like dismissed a pop-up instead of hitting OK. And yeah, they shared their story. I think eventually they did get their access removed because they did that, which is totally fair and within Valve's rights. And to be honest with you, that was a massive marketing coup for Valve. It really was. Just the fact that that ended up being talked about, I think that really helped to like raise this game's
There's a chance that Valve actually intentionally tried to see if someone's gonna do something like that, because, again, it's the internet age. The idea that someone's gonna not openly make a video, talk about it, some news organization is not gonna try to be the first with the jump on scoop is kind of insane, because there is no binding thing that says, hey, we're Valve, we're gonna now sue you because you leaked this information. Especially considering the fact that it is meant to, you know, be a marketing thing that not a lot of people know. People start talking and bam, the big wave hits.
Profile, and it means that now that they go public, they've just got a lovely bit of momentum going. So, as of 1 a.m. on Wednesday, right? 1 a.m., 75,000 concurrent players, and the all-time peak is 92.7 thousand players. And the crazy thing about those numbers is they happen on like a Sunday, a Monday, and a Tuesday, very much when the ball is still rolling, because this game is still invite only. The easiest way to get in is to basically get an invite from somebody else, ideally one of your friends, but of course there are loads of Steam community groups and forum posts, the Reddit, etc., that are just dedicated to getting people invites. Now the other side of this is when we take a look at Twitch, where we see real strong viewership. It's like nothing that's completely mad, and the average isn't really climbing up.
Well, this is pretty big no matter how you slice it. This is impressive to say the least.
That much, but I'd say once you get like the large streaming names rotating onto the game, once they
also, I just love graphs. Look at this. This line here literally represents almost nothing. But it's there because it's a metric. Oh boy, what a time to be a world.
they get access, you'll probably see large spikes there. And in terms of sentiment, as an example, Shroud. Like, Shroud basically said, this game's the thing. Yeah, he's very into it. And I've seen similar from...
Shroud has said a bunch of crap.
Quite a few other people.
I would not hold my breath if Shroud says, oh, this game is good, oh, this game is bad. Well, if it's a shooter, you kind of probably can trust him, but again, I'm not gonna hold my breath because Shroud said something.
Who are streaming games like, say, Valorant. So we've got some good sentiment there from people who are genuinely tastemakers in the market. So while we haven't seen the largest numbers because not all of the big streamers have rotated onto the game just yet, we are seeing loads more channels streaming the game. I mean, just look how vertical that is. And ultimately what we see here is a...
Yeah, because a lot of small channels on Twitch are gonna try and become the next big thing by streaming something early. This happens always, and this is a very smart strategy if you want to become a big streamer. Get the big thing that people want to see, huge hype around it and whatnot, and then just stream it and get lucky. Twitch rewards people who are at the front of the column always.
A masterful mix of viral marketing and testing, right? It's just that viral word of mouth growth. As an example, I just think about, there's been a few mailbox apps, and I believe Robinhood, Robinhood, the trading app that's obviously quite controversial now, but years ago, it launched with a waitlist. And the way that it launched with a waitlist just generated so much hype and buzz. It gave it this like sense of mystique and exclusivity. And that's, in this case, going on top of Valve's already like amazing mystique and exclusivity. It then helps that the game is bloody good. And one of the things that I'm pretty happy about now is I can play it and I can have footage be on our video.
This looks interesting, but the first time I saw DeadLock, I instantaneously thought, wow, this is gonna fail hard. And you know why that was? Because I saw it at the some of the earliest stages where people were playing, aka people did not know what to do. So there were a bunch of games where people are just kind of not doing anything. They're just running around, zero shooting, being shot, and nothing's really happening. But now that people are slowly understanding what to do and things like that, it does look really, really good.
Videos from us playing it, so that's pretty cool. I haven't really got any collected yet. I will say though, from the members of our team who played it, put it this way, Matt basically said he was furious and hated it because it was getting the like MOBA clause back into him, and he doesn't want to turn back into the person that he was when he played MOBAs all the time, which is a roundabout way of saying, oh my god, this
understandable
game is so good it could actually be dangerous. Now, not everybody will like it. It's certainly like, yes, while it is a shooter, it is leaning a little bit more into the MOBA direction. So it's certainly a blend of things in a way, though, that I think is new. It's fresh, it's exciting. And I mean, yeah, we do have Smite 2 coming out, and that's obviously, big third-person MOBA, but this is a very different...
Smite is kind of niche, and honestly, you can't compare this to Smite at all. Smite plays completely different. It's a completely different thing. This is, yeah, it's just uncompatible. Anyone who compares DeadLock to Smite just does not understand what's happening.
Different game to Smite. And I gotta say, like, I love Smite. The idea of third-person shooter MOBA game actually is extremely...
Now, while they are not compatible, though, people could swap from each other game, because it does feel similar-ish in the basic concept, right? So, that is a thing that is similar, but nothing else is really similar to Smite.
Appealing to me, and I want to bring that up because It reminds me of Valorant, and it reminds me of what Concord failed to do. And this is not to just dump in Concord for no reason. I think there's a genuine point here about what actually gets a game cut through in the market. In the same
Yeah, Concord decided to be super woke and half your playable characters were fat black women, okay? Not a lot of people appreciated that. Not a lot of people liked that, okay? There was literally one white dude who was a baseball player or a football player or something dumb as that.
same way, take the Battle Royale genre. We had the initial rush, right? And then it sort of settled down. And while you do have your PUBGs and your Call of Duty Warzones, there's also the like of Naraka Bladepoint, right? And Bladepoint's an example of just giving you an experience that you're not getting in other games within its genre. Valorant was another amazing example of that. Do you like hero shooters? Do you...
Oh, Valorant is dead. Okay, listen. I think Riot is gonna go under very, very... Well, when I say very soon, it's gonna still be a matter of literal years. But I think Valve is definite... Not Valve, but... Riot Games is gonna go under at this rate. It is insane. What Valorant did when they decided, oh yeah, this is Valorant's gonna be an inclusive space for everyone, and you know, literally full furries, lollies, and all of that garbage, it just completely lost the plot. If you look at League of Legends now, what do you get nowadays? Well, you get furry content. And a bunch of underage girls effectively as characters. That's what you are getting at, okay? It is nothing like compared to the League of Legends of even 4 years ago. And I think this is going to get worse and worse and more degenerate to the point where there's only going to be complete degenerates playing things like Valorant and League of Legends. So yeah, it may take years, maybe they switch course at some point, but currently it looks like Riot Games is kind of trying to completely off themselves. The same exact way, by the way, that Blizzard Entertainment is doing it with their woke stupidity and inclusivity and everything. After the Blizzard scandal, I said, hey, they're now going to fire every single person who's not a purple-haired feminist, and it's going to go bad, okay? And, well, what do you know? The newest expansion, The War Within, literally has a lead character that's a black, half-elf, crippled woman. Yeah, fun times. And people have been commenting and telling me about this who have played the story. The whole story of The War Within currently, as far as we can see, is just a bunch of girl bossing. That's it. Just a bunch of girl boss stories.
You like Counter-Strike? Cool. We'll merge them together in a way that feels new and different. And that means that even though Valorant was a competitor to Counter-Strike, maybe a competitor to Overwatch, it felt new and different enough to carve out its own bit of the market and then to expand the size of its own market by appealing to more people. Whereas you look at something like Concord, and what Concord really struggled with was like, yes, weak character designs, I think fairly weak marketing, but just not doing enough to make itself feel new and different. So I suppose in summary, GG Valve. However, Valve have technically violated the Steam guidelines. This is minor, and I just bring it up because it's kind of funny. They launched the DeadLock page without having 5 gameplay screenshots, and that is technically not allowed per their own rules. So very naughty, Valve. But you know,
oh damn, Valve. Well, GG DeadLock. It was a good run.
What? Somehow, I don't think that's going to hold them back. The next thing, though, is SnapTap. Now, you might be thinking, what the hell is SnapTap? Well, let me explain. SnapTap is a feature in some modern keyboards. I mean, to do an easy example, like one of the new Razer boards. So, you know the way if you're playing an FPS, let's just say you're strafing to the left, and that means you're holding the A key in your keyboard. Then, if you held the D key in your keyboard, well, nothing would really happen until you release A, right? With SnapTap, the way that it works, as an example in this Razer board, is if you are holding A and then you hit D, what it will do is it will stop the input from A, meaning that your character will immediately start moving. So for some people, they won't really notice the difference here, but for others, this actually does mean that their movement just feels a bit more buttery, right? A bit more creamy, little bit faster. And that's actually...
Okay, listen, I'm 3 seconds away on going on a goddamn tirade at this point, because if you're gonna tell me there are people in this world who literally want a better experience because they are dumb enough to not be able to take their finger off of D when they want to go in the other direction, I don't know what to say, okay?
To the point where Valve no longer see this as being something that is fair or reasonable in the game. So because of that, they're going to be banning it. And I'm just going to read a little bit of their explanation.
Admittedly, I do see this as overpowered because it actually is really hard to instantaneously fluidly stop the movement. Most people will log for even a slight less than a second, but they will just stop at the same time, and their movement will stop, and that is a big thing in something like Counter-Strike. So I understand why this is overpowered, but the idea that some people are just too stupid to take their goddamn finger off the D key when they want to go in the opposite direction, that just kills me as a person.
Here. They say that recently some hardware features have blurred the line between manual input and automation, so they've decided to draw a clear line on what is or is not acceptable in CS. They say they're no longer allowing for automation via scripting or hardware that circumvent some core skills, and moving forward, and initially exclusively on the official Valve servers, people suspected of automating multiple player actions from a single game input will be kicked from their match. So not a VAC ban or anything, just a kick from the match. And they say that to prevent accidental infractions, in-game binds that include more than one movement and or attack actions will no longer work, and they give the example of null binds and jump throw binds. Now, they do actually in their post talk about like how people would essentially like macro their jump throws and stuff, and how they realized that was like a thing in the game that people wanted, and they changed some of their controls to allow people to do that stuff without really needing to lean on a form of automation. So they're doing this with SnapTap, but tell you what, I think this is a bit of a blurry line. Because to some people, like, all this is really doing is your keyboard stopping a signal whenever you hit another key. So to some people, that is a form of automation, and that's not fair. And you know, to move to the right, not only do you need to press and hold the D key, you also need to manually release the A key. So to some people, that is automation. To others, it's just how your keyboard is handling inputs. And it's doing so in a way that makes the game feel more responsive. And that responsiveness probably means the game is fun. It's a tricky one.
No, that responsiveness does give you an unfair advantage.
I understand where Valve is coming from, and I totally understand that they don't want people to have a competitive advantage just because they have a certain type of keyboard. But that is itself a little bit of a slippery slope, and it's hard to draw the line. As an example, loads of keyboards that use Hall effect switches can actually have multiple actuation points throughout the travel of the switch. So you could actually have 4 inputs, or 3 inputs or whatever, on any single key that are just triggered as you press that key down. Now, for some games, that would all just be, you know, oh, it's a signal from the keyboard, 1 signal equals 1 action in the game, that's fine. But I think based on Valve's logic here, that would absolutely be a form of automation that they would not be okay with. The thing then is, what about other competitive advantages? Mice, refresh rates, that kind of thing. I mean, certainly if you're playing a game on a 60 hertz monitor, and that's a competitive game, and you're maybe going against somebody, not even a 240 hertz monitor, but even a 120 hertz monitor, that other person has got a large, genuine competitive advantage. I mean, I remember the first time that I moved from a 60 hertz monitor to a 144, I believe I was playing Call of Duty Black Ops 2, straight up my kill death rate ratio went way up. I was just able to outplay people. The game felt way more smooth, and that meant that I was way better at playing it. So that kind of thing already exists for Valve's games. Of course, though, that's just how fast does your monitor go? Does monitor go burr? That's not really a form of automation, so I don't think there's a reasonable way they could have like a policy solution to that.
Oh, this discussion is going to be so insanely dumb as time progresses.
But I suppose where I draw the line is just that the games feel so much better at a higher refresh rate, and with the way our technology is going, those higher refresh rates will likely become the standard, and especially for a game like CS, it's pretty easy to run. You know, I think that kind of makes sense. Valve may be thinking, though, that while the ship has sailed with monitors, and while, you know, like limiting their game to 120 hertz would be a really bad move for player experience, they probably just want to nip this keyboard thing in the bud before it it gets out of hand because they don't want people to feel like they need.
Is that it? Man, let's not even begin to talk about the mouses that you can program cheats in and whatnot. That is insane. Anyway, that was Bellier. Valve taking over again. Bye-bye.